The Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Okay, our usual housekeeping motion, which will apply for all meetings until we get to our final adjournment. The moderator would consider a motion to allow town meeting members to attend virtually per the ADA, to name Bruce Morey as deputy moderator, to adjourn until Wednesday, September 25th, 2024 at 7 o'clock if our business is not completed tonight, and to allow voting by raising hand instead of standing. Second? All in favor?
Sam.
Thank you. All opposed? Thank you. As is our way of doing business, should you wish to speak, you raise your hand and wait until you're recognized by the moderator. Wait for the mic. Hold on a second until it'll work. Then state name and precinct. For any residents who wish to speak, you get an opportunity after town meeting members have had their say. You follow the same thing. Please stand and raise your hand and wait until you're recognized by me. Wait for the microphone and give your name and address once the microphone's working. And as also is the way we do business, committees and boards speak through the chair. They speak with one voice, and that is who I will recognize unless the chair indicates someone else as an alternate speaker. And at this point, I would like to ask for a moment of silence. A long-term member of this body, Steve Stam, who you may recall always, even when his health was having trouble, still came in and with his oxygen tank to attend in person. Steve passed away. So if we could have a moment of silence for Steve. Thank you. And on an opposite note, it seems that today is somebody's birthday. The hostess for your dinner, Myrna Saltman, happy 29th birthday. And Myrna, there are 102 people here tonight.
I'm going to be here for my 102nd as well.
There you go. Okay. So now let's get down to business. We have lots of things to cover tonight. We're going to start out with 5 reports by various committees. We'll start with Ms. Hughes from the Zoning Bylaw Committee.
Thank you, Mr. Moderator. My name is Betsy Hughes. I am a member of the Zoning Bylaw Review Committee and the Signage Subcommittee. You may remember me from May when I came with my hand outstretched asking you for some money for a consulting project for the town center signage project. Thanks to your generosity and your approval, we have moved ahead in We immediately applied for a grant with the state. We have yet to hear anything back about that. But following that, we solicited quotes from a number of different planning organizations. We selected a group called Util Design of Boston, who had their urban planners and designers, and they were selected based on their reputation, their experiences relevant to Burlington, and cost. The contract was signed around July 11th. The scope documents, because we wanted to make sure we hit the ground running, were sent to them in advance at the end of July to make sure they were reading them and knew about the master plan, the town center design work that's already been done, as well as the draft documents that the ZBRC had put together. We kicked off our meeting on our project on August 6th. They came out for a site visit, which was real fun. We got in cars, drove around the town center areas, showed them everything we had. They took lots and lots of pictures. And then they developed a plan of the current state and findings and observations that we've been working on ever since, along with some best practice. We put together a subgroup, including the Chamber of Commerce, Rick Parker, and Mike Murray from Murray Hills, to outline some areas that they thought might be concerns for town center businesses, put together a document from that, and have sent out an invitation to 76 different town center businesses for focus groups that will occur tomorrow night and then next week. A little plug I'm going to give is that any of you are part of a town center business or own a building in the town center and you haven't heard from us, please grab me tonight. I'll make sure you get an invitation, because you definitely want to be there, because we need to hear from those businesses to make sure that we anticipate all of their concerns. Once that's all done, we will be working on drafting updated guidelines and zoning bylaws and use tables and all of that. We will be having public hearing sessions through planning board, et cetera, and with the intent of bringing this back to you in January for a vote. So that's the update. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Betsy. Next in line here is Melissa Tintokoulis, our Economic Development Director.
Thank you, Mr. Moderator and town meeting members. I wanted to give you an update only because over the last couple town meetings, the Economic Development Office, along with the Select Board, the Planning Director, we've been working on a new mixed-use innovation district along Mall Road and Middlesex Turnpike, as many of you know, and we had hoped to bring it to you, the proposal for the September town meeting. But as we moved forward with the Land Use Committee, Planning Board, and ZBRC, there was general consensus that maybe we should take a look at the overall geography and maybe look at it in a phase 1 and phase 2 approach. Essentially looking at maybe 2 segments of the district versus bringing everything to town meeting in one setting. So with that, we appreciate your patience. I wanted to give you an update. There is a handout in the back table that kind of shows the 2 maps, so you can take a look at it, the overall district and then our phase 1. And we'll be bringing that to you in January. So we appreciate your patience. But we have, as you know, many people here understand that the process has taken a little bit more time, but we do have high standards for this project, and we want to bring a quality zoning proposal to you in January. So I provided an update to our advisory group folks and members, and if anyone has any questions, please feel free to reach out to me and we can discuss this further. And otherwise, the planning board will be having a discussion on this item both in October 3rd and October 17th, and then we will be putting it on the warrant for January. So that is our update. Thank you, Mr. Moderator.
Thank you. Ms. Bond is going to give us an update on the high school study group.
I'm Catherine Bond, and I'm on the school committee, and I'm also chair of the high school building committee. In May of 2023, the school committee requested $1.5 million to complete a feasibility study and schematic design of Burlington High School. Town meeting approved this funding, and as a result, a high school building committee was formed. The committee was charged by the school committee to follow a detailed feasibility process similar to the process completed for Fox Hill, but without the MSBA as a partner. The short video provides details as to where we are currently and where we are headed. As you will see in the video, we expect to report to town meeting in the fall of 2025 with a request for funding at the conclusion of the feasibility study, as we are doing tonight for Fox Hill. Importantly, and as reported by Ways and Means Committee, regardless of the new police station and hopefully the Fox Hill Elementary School tonight, any option related to the high school will likely require a debt exclusion for taxpayers of the town. This short video provides a summary of what has been happening with the Burlington High School.
In this video, we will explain exactly what this study will do, who is performing the work, give a tentative timeline of the project, and cover why the school is being studied for a building project. Future videos will go into more detail about particular stages or parts of the process to assist with project understanding. The existing high school was built in 1971. It contains 360,000 square feet, and current high school enrollment is around 900 students. In addition to the 100+ classrooms and learning spaces, it also houses the school district central office, IT department, Burlington Early Childhood Center, Burlington Cable Access TV, and the Lab Collaborative offices, as well as several other uses. This current feasibility study process began in 2023, with approval by the town for the school building committee to begin the study. This is the next facilities phase of the Burlington Schools Educational Facilities Master Plan. The 60-year-old concrete construction school with minimal updates puts our students' educational environment in a severe disadvantage. There have been several focused studies on the mechanical systems and the building's lack of accessibility, highlighting many building deficiencies. Additionally, the New England Association of Schools and Colleges has reviewed the school and provided space recommendations to keep the school accredited by their organization. Health, safety, educational approach, indoor air quality, appropriate equipment and space, integration with the natural environment, and changes in student activities and behavior require the building to adapt. The school building committee has been charged with exploring educationally sound, environmentally sustainable, and fiscally responsible options, and creating a plan for school building improvement, whether it's a renovation, an addition renovation, or new construction. This is what the feasibility study will do. Undertaken with an architect and an owner's project manager, they guide the town through the school building design and construction process. In winter of 2023, the SBC selected Doran Whittier as the owner's project manager and Tappe Architects as the architectural designer. Both firms have decades of public school design experience in Massachusetts, including Burlington and neighboring towns. This process is very similar to the Fox Hill School project, with the noted exclusion of the Massachusetts School Building Authority, who for 13 years has not chosen the high school as a state-funded project. So what are the steps of the feasibility study? Here's a roadmap to get a sense of where the project is currently, what's coming up, and how you can be informed and get involved. The first step is gathering existing conditions. This provides the design team with accurate measurements, systems, performance, and a baseline of what needs replacing and what areas can be renovated or repurposed. At the same time, an educational plan and educational space programming template is created with the school and the district. This allocates all spaces in the building with current and future needs to determine deficiencies in the space, both in terms of square feet and educational appropriateness. The non-educational spaces and programs that are more community-facing are also evaluated. This first step was completed in March and April of this year and helped inform the next step, educational visioning. The design team has partnered with New Vista Design to collaborate with members of the high school family, including a selection of staff, students, and parents, to determine what Burlington High School's priorities should be in a building project. These preliminary sessions were completed in June, but don't worry, there is still plenty of opportunity for input and to make your voice heard. Having gathered and studied these items, the design team, along with district leadership, prepares preliminary concepts for review and approval. This report is called the PDP, or Preliminary Design Program. This is the current status of the Burlington High School feasibility study. This report provides a wide overview of all viable options, including renovation only, addition renovation, and new construction. It informs the SBC and district leadership of what's possible so as to work toward the best solution for Burlington. The next phase of the project is the preferred schematic report. This phase analyzes a short list of each type of option and concludes with a single recommended path forward for the high school. From here, the recommended option is further developed through the schematic design phase, where a robust design program is created with enough detail to establish a scope, a budget, and a schedule for the proposed project. And that is where the feasibility study ends, until the town and district decide to move forward with a construction project, which includes fully funding the total project budget established at the end of the feasibility study. So, how can you learn more and stay informed on the Burlington High School study? Just go to bhsbuildingproject.com. Here, you will find meeting notes, plans, reports, and images, as well as information on how to get involved. Such opportunities as attending our upcoming community listening session in September. The Burlington community is invited to The Green for an open conversation with the design team. This is just one of many chances to let your voice be heard about what matters to you regarding this high school project. Thank you.
So as chair of the Burlington High School Building Committee, I want to thank town meeting for their support of the $1.5 million for a detailed feasibility study. I also want to thank the many hours of time given to this important project by the High School Building Committee and the Burlington High School educators. We are making great progress and look forward to providing regular updates to town meeting and all town boards. The invitation to the Green in the video has been changed to the Beer Garden, and that takes place this Thursday. So please stop by the table if you want to have any questions or put any input into the group that'll be standing there. We also will be having a community update and meeting in mid-November, so please stay tuned. Thank you all.
Thank you, Mrs. Bond. Mr. Foss, please. I hear you wish to speak for the Human Services Committee.
Mr. Moderator, thank you to the body for just a couple minutes every time. Unfortunately, I do not have a nice video for you to watch, but I will give you an update on the Human Services Committee. Just a brief history, it was a committee of town meeting for a number of years and then kind of went into hiatus and was reformed about 14 months ago. We have been meeting once a month to discuss the needs of the town, to identify all the excellent services that are provided throughout the different groups, boards, and other organizations within town, and all the great things that they do, and identifying needs of residents. We currently are working on a directory and information page for residents to better coordinate between these different organizations and boards, we have been having ongoing discussions with members of various boards and other organizations in town. For example, Chief Brown came to one of our meetings and was very informational in providing everything that the Burlington Police are doing. We are coordinating with other groups. So we have had a meeting with People Helping People and another meeting with Burlington Buzz. But the big ask that we are making tonight is for bodies. We have lost a couple of members and we need some help. So if you are interested in joining us and contributing to the effort, please reach out. My email is there, fossman@gmail.com. We would love to have a few more bodies to continue this important work. Thank you very much.
As Mr. Foss noted, there is an opening on his committee. My response from town meeting members has been quiet. So please, I would hope someone would consider stepping up and joining that committee. Thank you. Our last presentation, Sam Hockenberry on electric aggregation.
Good evening. My name is Sam Hockenberry, and I'm an analyst for the town and the staff contact for the Municipal Aggregation Program. Over the last several weeks, we have relaunched the town's Municipal Aggregation Program. Hopefully, everyone here and at home has heard from the town one way or another about the program. However, the moderator has kindly allowed a few minutes for me to briefly touch upon what aggregation is, how you can participate, and where you can learn more. The town, on your behalf, through Colonial Power, created a purchase agreement for electrical supply from Constellation New Energy. The contract runs from October 2024 to October 2026. 3 energy options and rates will be available in that 2-year window. One is the default option, and that is at 13.229 cents per kilowatt hour. The second option is 5% more green energy at 13.447 cents per kilowatt hour, and the third is 25% more green energy at 14.322. Eversource basic service is currently at 15.7, but that rate changes in February and then would change again the following August. The town's program offers 3 rates that are locked in for 2 years, so there's stability. Okay, now how do you get into the program or how do you get out? First, for the vast majority of you, you probably received a letter. If you didn't do anything, congrats, you are in the Municipal Aggregation Program. If you called or went online to opt into a greener profile, you are also still in the program. However, if you got a letter and you filled out the opt-out card, or you called, or you went online to opt out, you will not be in the program. For a smaller number of you, you may not have got a letter. If you did not, there are 2 reasons. The first is that you may already have an existing third-party supply contract. How do you know that? On your bill, it will say the name of your supplier, their address, and their phone number. It also will tell you the rate that you are being charged for. So, if you are on a third-party supply contract, but the town is offering a better rate, what do? First, contact your third-party supplier. They may have an exit fee or penalty for switching out of the program. It's important for you to know that so you can make the judgment of what's best for you. If you want in, you can call or go online and opt into the program. If you're fine with where you're at, you don't have to do anything. You will not be enrolled in our aggregation program. You keep your contract. If you do not have a third-party supply contract and you are absolutely certain you did not get a letter, that is because then you are on Eversource's supplier block list, which delisted you so we could not get your information to enroll you. If you want in the program, you need to call Eversource and remove yourself from the block list, then call or go online to opt into the program, and then you're in. If you're on the supplier block list and you're just happy to be on basic service, you can continue to do nothing and nothing changes. All right. What if I change my mind? You can opt in, you can opt up, you can opt out whenever and how frequently you want. There are no fees and penalties for our program. You simply go to colonialpowergroup.com/Burlington, or you call Colonial at 866-485-5858, extension 1, to do your switching. What does the town get out of this? Nothing. We are not making money on this. We just want to offer consumers a choice and hopefully help lower your electric bills. Sam, this is a lot of information. I need more time. Sam, I have lots of questions. Great. Please go to the town website at burlington.org/1211/municipal-aggregation. We have the letter that was mailed out. We have an FAQ. We've got several videos from BCAT. There are plenty of things for you to get all of your questions answered. My phone number is also on that page. If you really feel like it's not on the website, you can call me and I will help you through it. You can also go to colonialpowergroup.com/Burlington to do your opt-in, opt-out, or look for more information. And that is all I have for you tonight. Thank you.
Thank you, Sam. Okay, that finishes up Article 1. Let's move on to Article 2, the annual town election date. Let me get my proper papers in line. Okay. Article 3, annual town election date. Article 2. It has been moved and seconded by the Ways and Means Committee and is as printed in the warrant to have our town election on April 5, 2025. Select Board wish to speak on this? They will vote. Mr. Espaillo?
On the election?
Did you take a position on this?
We did not take a position on the election.
All right. Does anyone have anything to say on this? Hearing nothing, we'll vote on it. All those in favor? Opposed? We'll see you April 5th. Article 3, change of use of the Water Department building for a temporary police station. It has been moved and seconded by the Ways and Means Committee, and it is as printed in the warrant. On this one, I believe the Select Board has a position.
Don't?
With 5-0. Favor.
The vote was 5-0. Thank you, Joe. All right. If someone's going to speak on this, I have Mr. DiNozio written down here, or is it going to be Mr. Sagorino?
Thank you, Mr. Moderator. As town meeting may recall, during our discussion in May about the police station replacement project, we discussed how there would be a need to temporarily relocate the police department for an estimated period of about 2 years during the construction phase of the project. Since that approval in May, that's primarily what we've been focused on, trying to find the best spot to relocate the police station. We really had 3 options. Try to relocate it in a town facility or on town-owned land. We could have leased commercial space, or we could lease land and then subsequently lease modular trailers to house the department for that period of time. But obviously, given the high cost of commercial real estate here in town and to either lease or otherwise commercial land, we're really focused in on trying to temporarily relocate the project on town property. And we focused in on the Vinebrook treatment plant. The Vinebrook treatment plant has not been used to make water for many years, and we're in the process of decommissioning that plant. It is in very good condition. It already has all the utilities, bathrooms, communications. It's on the town network, et cetera. We've had preliminary discussions with our designer, and we believe that the department can fit comfortably. Well, I don't want to say comfortably. It will be relatively Spartan quarters for a couple years, but I think that the officers are aware that, there is a pot of gold at the end of the rainbow. So we focused in on this, the Vinebrook treatment plant, as a place to temporarily locate the police department. As we started researching the land, it came to be that the town, when it originally acquired this property back, I believe, in the 1940s or 1950s, specifically took the property for water use. So upon the advice of town council, she suggested that we return to town meeting and ask for your permission to temporarily use this space as a police station. Upon the completion of the project, it will revert back to water department use. If we do receive your approval here tonight, we will then be able to fine-tune our plan and determine what, if any, local approvals we need from any of the boards in town. So that's essentially a summary of the article. A vote here will allow us to temporarily utilize the Vinebrook treatment plant as a police station for a few years during construction. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Sagarino. Did land use take a position on this by any chance? No. All right. We'll open it up for discussion. Any questions, comments? Yes, ma'am. Up at the back. Well, it wasn't going to be you, Pat, but go ahead. I would have called your name.
Well, let somebody else. I'll take it after. Okay. Pat Angelo, Precinct 5. Is that the building that's down on the Middlesex Turnpike?
Yes, 171 Middlesex Turnpike.
Okay. This doesn't have anything to do with this, but I guess it really does. In that building, hopefully, there is a plaque dedicated to Margaret Vaccaro, who was a longtime town meeting member. And she was the one that fought like hell to get the money when the plumes were coming down from all of the wells that polluted our water system. And it was a comedy of errors that night because the selectmen wanted the money for something else, and Margaret would jump up and fight for this money for the studies, and the selectmen would go back to them. And for her hard work, I know there was a plaque, and I'd like to ask that that plaque be brought up someplace in town buildings so that she's not forgotten after the hard work that she put into protecting our water supply.
Thank you, Pat.
Precinct 1. I'm wondering, has there been any research done to exploring the impact on the wildlife habitat there? It is a significant wildlife refuge. I know because I have studied the area. There, that land is annually used by migratory birds from South America, Central America, the southern part of our country, who come, palm warblers, many different variety of warblers, shorebirds, waterfowl, mammals, reptiles, potentially eastern box turtles. I'm just wondering what kind of attention has been given to this, because it would be a terrible shame to cause damage. Thank you.
We haven't done any wildlife studies of the area, but the intention was that the station's going to fit in the existing blueprint, footprint of the building. So there's no, we don't anticipate adding any structure to there except potentially a temporary trailer or two. But there hasn't been any discussion of the wildlife in the area, but we don't believe that we're actually increasing the footprint of the building or the area that would be disturbed.
Mr. Boyven.
Bill Boyven, Precinct 1. I'm also the Vice Chair of the Conservation Commission, and I just want to point out this has not come before confirmation yet. As Mr. Segarino said, they will address any town boards or commissions that need to be involved. If there's going to be anything outside or change of use to the existing footprint, I'm sure they will come before Conservation and get our input as to the effect. If it's just going to stay on the same footprint and probably just a temporary trailer or something, I don't see that it would change the impact on the environment, the wetlands, or the wildlife, but we'd like to see the plans and have some input into that. Thank you.
Mr. Prue.
Mike Prue, Precinct 4. How come this wasn't brought to the Land Use Committee? It's a change of use of the land, right? I'm just curious.
That was unintentional, Mr. Prue.
Yes, ma'am. Nancy.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Moderator. I just have a couple of questions.
Name and precinct, please.
Oh, sorry, it's Z1 person 5. Keep forgetting that. So what's the timeline, when to start and when to end? And how are you planning to notify the residents? And I know there's a $2 million for swing space, and what's the approximate cost of construction? I assume you need to do some type of construction to get the police station ready over there, even just temporary, right?
Okay, I can answer some of those. We haven't gotten official construction documents yet. As discussed previously, our intention is to not invest too heavily into the building, given that we're not going to be able to utilize it much longer into the future. Chief can give us a timeline on the construction, and I apologize, Z, I think I missed another question within that.
When are you planning to start?
Microphone.
So the notification process is going to be hugely important as we get closer, so that we'll have to update all the Waze and online GPS systems and maps. We certainly are going to have to update signage to notify all the residents that, you know, they're no longer going to be able to show up at the police station. If they have a need like that, they're going to have to go down to the Middlesex Turnpike. So as we get closer to that date, we'll be planning sort of a blitz on the town to let everybody know that it's moving, that the police station will be temporarily moving, because that's come up in several of our conversations as a very important part of this, is to make sure everybody knows where the police station is. Obviously, it's very important. And Chief, can you just address the timeline, timing of that?
Thank you, Mr. Moderator. According to the design team, provided this article goes through, right around November, the construction documents would be ready to be put out to bid, hoping that we would start the renovation sometime in January, and it'd be about 5 to 6 months. So we're hopeful to get in there in May, early June, and that would give them time to clear the current lot at the police station and begin construction right around September.
Anything further? Is that Mr. Bell?
Thank you, Mr. Moderator. Roger Bell, Precinct 6. If we're going to be doing construction there, are you coming back in January with information in terms of what town meeting has to approve on this? I mean, obviously, you're going to need monies to do what you got to do.
We had included funding for the temporary relocation within the project itself, so we don't anticipate having to request any additional funds for town meeting.
Okay, thank you.
Yes, Pat. At the back, please, here.
Thank you. Patricia O'Brien, Precinct 2. Question about parking. Does the new location have the capacity for the patrol cars and for the staff and for visitors?
Yes. Designer's preliminary review, again, we didn't want to go too far along into it, but we are aware that the station and all the functions of the police department can fit comfortably within the building, and it could accommodate all of the parking needs for the police station temporarily.
And just a quick follow-up, so for snow clearing purposes in the wintertime and the salt, there'll be compliance, of course, to any of the regulations required around conservation land?
100% compliant with anything conservation wants done down there.
Thank you.
Mr. Interest, do I have the name correct?
Daryl Interest, Precinct 6. I think this is for the chief. Any operational impacts that you expect? Obviously, patrols aren't necessarily going to be affected, but and also the facilities themselves. Any of the portable shooting range or the modular, I think you addressed that in the spring. There's a modular shooting range. You can bring that with you. I don't know if you plan to set that up there, as well as holding cells. I think you mentioned that also in the spring as well. Maybe partnership with nearby towns, or if you have holding cells planned for the temporary location. Thank you.
Sure. Thank you, Mr. Moderator. I don't see any operational impacts. As Mr. Sagarino said, we expect that it's going to be tight. We're going to take a step backwards in order to move forward. You're going to have officers that are sharing office space. We're going to cram in there as best we can. But I don't see any negative operational impacts at all. As far as the firing range, that's obviously not going to come with us. We will be making agreements with outside departments right now. We partner with Lexington for one of our shoots in the fall. We plan to do that, and we'll find space over the next 2 years to get that training done. Did I answer all of your questions? I might have missed one. I'm sorry? Oh, the holding cells. So right now we have an agreement with the Middlesex Sheriff. It's called Safe Keep. If we have to hold a prisoner, we can bring them up to the Billerica House of Correction, but we can also make partnership agreements with Wilmington, Woburn, Billerica, and Lexington. We're holding Lexington prisoners right now, so I expect that I will ask the favor back of Chief McLean as well as other surrounding towns.
Anything further? Ms. Ellis.
Thank you, Mr. Moderator. Sherry Ellis, Precinct 3. As far as the building goes, when you're finished, you'll return it to the water use. What is the life expectancy of that building? You'll be changing it into offices. Is there viability for future use for swing space for school administration or BCAT or something else where we can use that going forward?
I think that's a good question, Sherry. The building itself is sort of split between office space and sort of a garagey area where sort of the tanks are. So we'll be converting some of that space into sort of cubicles. But in terms of the future use, I think it could have some temporary uses. I mean, some of the things that we thought about was sort of maybe recreation uses like pickleball and things of that nature. So one of the biggest, just a thought, but or swing space for the school administration. But I think the town will have some options with what to do with that property. Probably the one negative, and I just preface this by saying that this property is like an island in the middle of the floodplain, so it's never flooded per DPW recollection. But under the new FEMA maps that will be coming out in a year or two, it is listed in the floodplain. So I think in terms of a future use, the town will have to really think about what types of investment they want to make in the property, given that it is located in an area that could be susceptible to flooding in the future.
Anything further? Seeing none. All those in favor? All those opposed?
Unanimous.
It appears unanimous. Thank you very much. We meet our 2/3 requirement. Article 4 has been moved and seconded by the Ways and Means Committee, and it is as printed in the warrant. It is to discuss changing the town clerk position to an appointed position. Submitted by the Select Board. Is there a vote and a recommendation by the board?
Select Board voted 5-0 in favor of this article.
Thank you. Oh, Sarah, you already moved over there. Ms. Cawley, please.
Thank you, Mr. Moderator. Good evening, everyone. My name is Sarah Cawley. I'm on the Burlington Select Board. I also chaired the Town Clerk Subcommittee. I wanted to give a little bit of a background on why we're talking about this now, and then go over the findings and the recommendations of the Town Clerk Subcommittee and the Select Board. So Burlington's current situation, as most of us already know, our current town clerk, Amy Warfield, is sadly retiring, sadly for us, retiring in 2025. You know, we've been very, very lucky to have her. And as of right now, there appears to be no obvious successor for that role on the current clerk staff. Amy has also taken it upon herself to sort of do some outreach within the community and her network to try to find a successor in town, and has not had any luck with that. Also, the responsibilities and complexities of the town clerk role have drastically changed and evolved in recent years in terms of the elections and election laws, FOIA requests, vital records, licenses, technology. And I'm sure if there are more specific questions on that, we have Amy here. She can answer any questions you have on that. But suffice to say, the town clerk role has really become a highly technical administrative position. And then lastly, Burlington itself has grown and evolved over the years, and our makeup and continued development make it a particularly challenging place to be a town clerk. So in light of all those factors, Amy came to the Select Board last year and asked that we look into this and explore the option of potentially moving this to an appointed role. So, as hopefully most of you remember, in the May 2024 town meeting, we brought this forward as sort of a discussion topic just to get initial thoughts from the body. One suggestion that was made was to form a subcommittee. And in June 2024, the Select Board formed the Town Clerk Subcommittee to help determine the pros and cons of an appointed versus an elected town clerk, and to inform and assist the board in making a recommendation to town meeting. So this summer, the 7 committee members met 4 times. The committee was made up of town meeting members David Alper, Jack Kelly, Florence Leon, who is also an election worker, Chris Murphy, one election worker, Elliot Tchaikovsky, and then myself and Joe Morandi from the Select Board. And I just want to take a moment to thank everyone who was a part of that committee, who stepped up and took the time over the summer to meet and have these discussions. There were varying opinions. Not everybody was on one side or the other, but everybody came to these meetings with an open mind, and there were good, productive conversations. So during these meetings, we heard from Amy Warfield, Joanne Faust in our HR department, as well as the town clerk from Arlington, Julie Brazil. Arlington did recently vote on this issue, and their town overwhelmingly voted to make it appointed. In that process, prior to the vote, they hired the Collins Institute to conduct a study on this. So they did kind of a lot of the work for us. So we were able to view that report, and it did have a lot of things that were sort of specific to Arlington, but it also had just quite a bit of information about the town clerk role in general. So that was a useful document to review. Joanne Faust from HR provided a draft job description, a draft recruiting plan, and those were included in the backup. And just so people have an idea of what the process could be if this does move to appointed, and this is not finalized yet, but there would essentially be a search committee formed, for the recruiting process, and they would make a recommendation to Select Board. Select Board would then make the appointment, and the position would potentially report to the town administrator. And on that note, I do just want to recognize something that's been brought up to me a few times about past appointments by the select board that were maybe questioned by some residents in town, myself being one of those residents, which may have resulted in a little bit of erosion of trust around the issue of appointments. Those appointments were for committees specifically, which is a process that is much less rigorous, and it really only involves select board members, or if there's another elected body where it's a joint appointment, then it would involve those members as well. This process for a full-time salaried position is much more thorough, similar to what was done for town treasurer and town accountant. So like I said, it would involve a screening committee of various stakeholders in town, department heads, HR, board of registrar, et cetera. So I do understand that some folks might still have hesitations, but I just wanted to point out that distinction between an appointment to a committee and an appointment to a full-time position like this one. So we spent a lot of the time on the committee focused on ironing out the pros and cons of an elected versus an appointed position. And if you remember from town meeting in May, Amy provided something that was pretty similar to this. So we used that as a starting point, and then also referenced other documents from other towns that have also gone through this process. And we really went through each bullet point and made sure everyone was accurate and clear and made sense. So hopefully, these were provided in the backup. Hopefully you had a chance to look at these, but I'll just run through them really quickly. So on the elected side, the pros are the role is accountable directly to voters. It's a resident of the community and independent from the select board and town administration. The cons are the only requirement is to be a registered resident. There are no requirements around working hours, qualifications, or knowledge of the role. Voters are not in a position to supervise or evaluate job performance. There's no current ability to remove the person outside of their election cycle. A little asterisk there. I understand that there is another warrant article coming on about a recall effort. So, but as of the writing of this document, there's no ability to remove the person. And also there's a risk that no candidate would run, leaving the position vacant. On the appointed side, some of the pros are opening up to candidates outside of Burlington would be a larger pool of applicants that can be vetted for experience. We could include specific job requirements in a job description. There's better opportunity for evaluation, accountability, and succession planning, and there's ability to remove for lack of performance. The cons are the potential for a lack of impartiality or independence from the appointing authority. If from outside of Burlington, they may need to learn the history and culture and the way we work, and voters could feel less connected to the process. So given all of this and all the research we did as a committee, the recommendation from the town clerk subcommittee was that the question of whether to transition the role of town clerk from an elected to an appointed position be put on a town-wide ballot at a future election. And based on that recommendation, like Joe said, the select board also voted 5-0 in favor of putting it on the ballot for voters to decide. In addition to that recommendation, the committee also wanted to include the draft recruiting plan and the draft job description, if it were an appointed role, for town meetings knowledge and information to help make your decision. And then last point, a vote in favor of this article would be in line with those recommendations and put this issue on the ballot for voters to decide. A vote against would keep the town clerk role as elected. And that's all. Thank you very much, Mr. Moderator.
Thank you, Ms. Colley. Did any group take a position on this? Was Select Board voted in favor of it. Anybody else? I don't think it applies to anybody else, but okay, in that case, we'll open it up for discussion. Ms. Nash.
Mildred Nash, Precinct 3. In part of the pros and cons, which I thought this was really done, but one of the caveats, which was not up on the screen, was Amy to share her thoughts on the issue of how important is it to have someone within the town as opposed to possibly being from outside town. And I wondered if it would be appropriate or if Amy would be willing to talk a little bit about two questions. When she came into the job, because I always thought she was so splendid, I thought she was born for it. But did she have experience in the office beforehand? We know that she got voted in and has done a wonderful job, but how did that happen and how long did it take her to get up to speed? And particularly in concern with that caveat that the town clerk could be from outside town if it's an appointed rather than an elected kind of thing. Thank you.
Would you like to speak just a minute?
1 minute?
1 minute. Maybe 90 seconds. Please. Ms. Warfield.
Thank you, Mr. Moderator. Just to give you a rundown, so I came to work for the town in 2005 when Jane Chu was the clerk. She needed somebody that had a vast computer experience. I spent 25 years working in publishing, electronic publishing, and then had a training business to printers and publishers for about 10 years on my own as part of that overall 25 years. So I learned the clerk's job from being in the clerk's office, which 20 years ago was a much different situation than it is today. So I think that, again, somebody from outside, one of the job requirements you would look for is either somebody who is a town clerk or an assistant town clerk in a comparable type of town would be the one thing. The other thing is that during my tenure here is I've always taken time to take advantage of all the training that the Clerks Association in Massachusetts provides, as well as some other national training that I've done through the International Clerks Association, taking courses at online with the University of Minnesota, who has the Herbert Humphrey. Yep, Herbert Humphrey. They have the School of Government there that has a lot of courses online that clerks can take. The nuances, every town is slightly different. Clerks' jobs are all laid out by Mass General Law, but every town, as you know from Burlington, has its own little peculiarities. It's not anything that somebody can't learn. And most clerks that I do know that are appointed, that's probably what they say is the biggest learning curve, is just to getting to know who the people are. Like Pat Angelo brought up, who are the people that molded and shaped the town before you got here? So those are the kinds of things that I look at.
Further questions, comments? Mr. Eiler.
Do we have, there we go. Thank you, Mr. Moderator. So we've been very fortunate to have Ms. Warfield here. Will definitely be difficult to replace. I think the idea of having a wider applicant pool, that they don't have to be a Burlington resident, is a real win. Having the ability to have job requirements in an actual interview process as opposed to whoever happens to run is a big plus. My biggest concern is about the political influence of the appointing authority. So the ballot measure here at least doesn't specify who that appointing authority is. I think there's an implication that the expectation is that will be the select board, but it could certainly be other folks like the town administrator, for instance. For me, I think the most important thing to understand would be how we limit that political influence. You could imagine having restrictions that, maybe at least there's a 2/3 vote or unanimous vote of the appointing authority to do any hiring or firing decisions. So my question is, I assume that before this could actually take place, that there would be a requirement to modify our bylaws to specify the appointing authority and what the process would be for making changes and so forth. So I just would like to verify that that's in fact the case and that town meeting will have an opportunity to comment on what those implementing bylaws are. I'm not, who is that a question for exactly?
Ms. Colley?
Well, that's not something that we as a subcommittee looked into, so I don't know if that's more of a question for either Amy or Paul, or Lisa.
Perhaps Lisa.
Town council?
So if this were to pass in April, then we would bring forward an amendment to the bylaw, just like we did with the treasurer, to show who the appointing authority was and how that happened.
Okay, great. So we'll have an opportunity to vote on whether the implementation of it is something that we're comfortable with.
Correct.
Great, thank you very much.
Additional questions? The birthday girl.
Thank you, Mr. Moderator. Myrna Saltman, Precinct 2, where the current position is an elected position for 5 years. If this is an appointed position, how long would the contract be for? Who makes those decisions?
3 years.
Mr. Sagarino, board.
Thank you, Mr. Moderator. Myrna, all of our department heads are employees at will, so they don't have specific length of term contracts with the exception of a couple of positions. And those contracts are typically 1-year contracts, but the majority of the department heads are not, under Mass General Law, allowed to have a contract. So it would just be an employee at will, so to speak.
Thank you.
Further questions?
Yeah, I have a question.
Oh, excuse me, that's correct. Mr. Miller, sorry, David, online.
Yes, Dave Miller, Precinct 4. Did the subcommittee itself take a stand one way or another, how they felt, whether it should be elected or appointed?
Ms. Colley.
Thank you, Mr. Moderator. The subcommittee did not take a stance on whether they would recommend either way. Their recommendation was to put it to the voters. That's not to say they didn't have opinions, and there were several in the meetings that said that they would be willing to share those at town meeting. So I'm not going to put them on the spot right now, but if they wanted to share, they're certainly welcome.
Thank you, Ms. Colley. Somebody else had a hand up? Mr. DiTucci.
Thank you, Mr. Moderator. Dan DiTucci, Jr., Precinct 6. Who would this, if we decided to vote that this person should be appointed, who do they report to? They report to Mr. Sagarino, to the Select Board?
Mr. Sagarino.
I could defer to Ms. Colley on this, but I can tell you that when the town did the treasurer position, they made that position appointed to the Select Board, appointed by the Select Board. So I don't know what the intention is as we move this one forward, but.
It was, and this is not final yet, but the intention is for the Select Board to be the appointing authority and the, be reporting to the town administrator. This was discussed a bit in the subcommittee and sort of back and forth on whether the Select Board should be be reporting to the Select Board, but the Select Board is not in Town Hall every day, and they're not, privy to the daily activities of what happens in Town Hall, so that would be more for the town administrator.
Thank you. I'd just like to remind people that what we're looking at is whether we should put this up for a vote to the town. We're not getting into the ins and outs of the issue, just whether or not we should put it out to the town for a vote. Yes, Monty. Mr. Pearson.
Hello, there we go. Monty Pearson, Precinct 3. I am concerned that if the voters are presented with just the language that we have here, that they won't have the opportunity to ask the questions that we've been asking here, and they are going to wonder who's going to be picking this person, and they're going to be wondering who is going to be supervising this person, and those kind of questions could very likely sink this at an election, a townwide election. And so I think that it would be better if this article had another paragraph in it indicating some of those larger appointment and supervisory issues so that the population knows that.
Town council, please.
The language that goes on the ballot is prescribed by statute, and that's why you have the language. It's just whether or not it should be an appointed position or elected position. So there's not a choice to add more language to it. It's prescribed by statute.
But Monty, I would imagine that there will be information made available to the public. But we're a long ways from the election. Something further. Mr. Collins, and then we'll get the gentleman in the middle.
Thank you, Dan Collins, Precinct 6. Follow up on his question a little bit is a little bit more about the timeline. When is Amy expected to retire? And if we were to vote yes on this, but we're not getting the information until April, which would be, what, just a couple weeks before the election, I'm confused what the voters would really know. Say we say no, or do we have a vote in April, or is that just more of an informational thing? I guess I'm a little unclear as to what's going to be happening in the spring.
Town council, please.
If the meeting votes to put this on the ballot, we'll prepare a warrant article for the May town meeting, and then if it were to fail, we would pass over the warrant article. So, but we would prepare it for the May town meeting in any event. And Amy can answer the question about her term.
Ms. Warfield, please.
I haven't put in an exact date for retirement, sometime between March and May. And another point about the position, just like the treasurer's position, all department heads basically report to the personnel director in town, who is the town administrator. So day to day, that's the person who department heads report to. And then they can be the department head can be appointed by either the town administrator or the select board. But again, it'll be like a police chief or a fire chief. It'll be a whole process. There'll be a search committee and those types of things. So just to kind of put some of that concerns aside, maybe.
Gentleman here in the middle.
Blaze Lieber, Precinct 6. Just to me, it sounds like there's a lot of details that haven't been kind of completely decided yet on this, how this position is going to be picked, and all of the fine-grained details. So my question is, if we vote yes on this and the town votes to approve it, is it then go to the select board and they just get to make kind of whatever decisions they want, or will this all be decided beforehand, before the voters vote? That's just my question.
So this question is whether or not to put it on the ballot. If it goes on the ballot in April, if you vote yes, we will at the same time prepare an amendment to the general bylaw, and there will be, the select board will put it forward, the committee would look at it, and it would come to this meeting in May, and then move forward.
Mr. Sagarino, would the select board be putting out information prior to the town election regarding this position?
Mr. Moderator, I would just ask Town Council, I believe that there is a referendum, pros and cons, that are prepared that goes out to all voters, similar to that red book you get from the state on ballot questions. It will list out the pro argument and then the argument against, and tell you what it means to vote yes, what it means to vote no. Very similar, I believe there was, CPA had one, and also when we did the treasurer. We've been talking to Amy about sort of how we may transition under either scenario. We recently went through this with the treasurer position, probably 6 years ago, and at that time, what the board did was temporarily appoint our existing treasurer to sort of fill the gap, fill out their term, so that we weren't left without a treasurer during that interim period. So I believe that we'll be having those discussions with Amy in the upcoming months, just to sort of try to work out what way may make it a smooth transition plan, just so that we have somebody in place, even if it's temporarily, to sort of handle the duties of the office in the event that there's an absence in the position.
Ms. Byer, please.
Kathy Byer, Precinct 2. I want to say that I am in favor of seeing this option for an appointed town clerk go on the ballot. There are people here who may remember that we have had before someone run against the town clerk for the position who did not have the qualifications or the training for that position. They see the word clerk and they see an easy inside job. I saw this happen in another town a decade prior to that as well. And I think that moving this into a process where there is actual accountability for looking at what is required to fulfill the job is going to be very important. So I would like to see this on the ballot and then see the details ironed out through the general bylaws in the May town meeting. So this is just whether this is going to stay elected or whether it's going to become appointed. So I hope to see this become an appointment. Thank you.
Further questions on this? Mr. DeBona. There's been a motion made to move the questions. It's not debatable and requires a 2/3 majority. All those in favor of moving the question, please raise your hand. Thank you. Yes, we're voting on whether we should move the question. All those opposed to moving the question? It's a clear 2/3 majority. The question has been moved, which brings us to a vote on the question. All those in favor of Article 4? Thank you. All those opposed? Thank you. The motion passes. Oops. Article 5 has been moved and seconded by the Ways and Means Committee. It is a home rule petition, special legislation concerning liquor licenses, and it is as written in the warrant. The Select Board have a position on this?
Thank you, Mr. Moderator. The Select Board voted 4-1 in favor of this article.
Thank you. Mr. Vaughn from Reamer and Braunstein, please.
Good evening, Mr. Moderator and ladies and gentlemen of town meeting. For the record, Attorney Mark Vaughn with Reamer and Braunstein. Pleased to be before you in connection with the article. I'll be as brief as I can relative to the article, but as many of you may recall, for those that were town meeting members back in 2018, town meeting did vote at that time to support a home rule petition for additional liquor licenses at the Burlington Mall property, which was subsequently adopted by the state legislature and signed by the governor in January of 2020. For those that were on town meeting, as you might remember, It allowed for 5 additional full liquor licenses and 4 wine and malt licenses that would be dedicated to the Burlington Mall property. When that warrant article was adopted by town meeting, while there was no time limit imposed as part of the town meeting vote, the legislature did, as part of its process, insert a 5-year time period by which the licenses would need to be utilized. The governor signed the bill in January of 2020, which was the beginning of that 5-year period, the enactment of it, the effective date, if you would. And if you think back of January 2020, what happened within days and weeks after that, obviously the COVID pandemic began, significantly impacting the economic conditions of the region, particularly challenging retail, restaurant, entertainment sectors, resulting in delays in tenanting activities, widespread disruptions for delivery of construction materials and the like. So notwithstanding all that, the mall has, despite those factors, been successful in moving forward with construction of and transformation of the former Sears box and the Sears tire battery auto building into a development which I think hopefully we can all be proud of, that came out quite nice. And a lot of those licenses have been utilized, but not all of them have been able to have been utilized within that time. 4 of the 5 full licenses have been used, and 2 of the 4 wine and malt licenses, thus leaving 3 of the 9 that are left. So as such, Simon is simply, Simon Property Group, the owner of the mall, the original petitioner, is simply seeking a modest extension of time by which those licenses may be issued. To be clear, we are not seeking any additional licenses beyond those which were granted. This is simply an extension of the time in order to be able to utilize those. I know that Simon has made and continues to make a significant investment into the mall, and as the mall continues to evolve over time, having those licenses available is certainly going to be critical to the future success of the property. So based on my communications with State Representative Ken Gordon in terms of what the process would be, he indicated that it would require a home rule petition to request for the 3-year extension of time, and then that would be put before the legislature. So he also felt that in discussions with him that 3 years would be appropriate, just given that it's somewhat commensurate of the time delays associated with COVID and the impacts that resulted therefrom. So with that, Mr. Moderator, ladies and gentlemen, certainly appreciate your support, and happy to address any questions. Thanks.
Thank you, Mr. Vaughn. Questions on this article? Mr. Prue.
Michael Prue, Precinct 4. If we vote this down, what happens to the licenses they haven't used? They go away, right? Is that the...
Yeah, as of January 22nd, 2025, technically those licenses that haven't been used have not been vested, so they would disappear, I believe. Yeah.
Thank you.
Anything further? Yes, Ms. Wang.
Thank you, Mr. Moderator. Zi Wang, Prison 5. I think it's a reasonable request, but can you clarify the address? Because in the letter it says 75 to 85 Middlesex Turnpike, but then in the Chapter 9 it says 71 to 85.
Yeah, it's the entirety of the Burlington Mall property, so whatever those addresses are that are part of it. It's the property that's owned by Simon, the Lord and Taylor box, as well as the Macy's box. So when the article was originally drafted, it applied to that entire property that consists of the Burlington Mall. But
Probably 71 then.
I believe so, yes.
Thank you.
Anything further? In that case, let's put this to a vote. All those in favor? Thank you. Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you much. Thank you, Mr. Vaughn.
Thank you. Thank you.
Now we switch colors. We're into the yellow. Financial articles. The will of Marshall Simons. It's been moved and seconded by the Ways and Means Committee to see if the town will vote to accept money. Ways and Means Committee, please. Mr. Davison.
Thank you. Ways and Means supported this 1300.
Thank you. Select Board take a position on this? No. Recreation Commission. Do they want to accept money? Difficult question, I know.
Stand up. Stand up.
Hold on.
Just wait, they'll find you.
Don't push the button.
Now you're on.
Okay. Recreation Commission did vote in favor of this unanimously.
Thank you. Questions on this article? Seeing none, we'll put it to a vote. All those in favor? Opposed? Look at that, no one doesn't want to take money. Good. Motion passes unanimously. Article 7, it's been moved and seconded by the Ways and Means Committee to see if the town will adopt the administrative and professional compensation plan for FY 2025 and transfer from the FY 2025 negotiated settlement account $309,704 for the purpose of funding the plan, same to be expended on the appropriate authorities. Ways and Means, Mr. Davison.
Ways and Means supported this 1300.
Thank you. Mr. Morandi, Select Board.
Select Board voted 5-0 in favor of this article.
Thank you. Mr. Denizio, I hear you're speaking on this.
Yes, sir. Thank you, Mr. Moderator. Okay, so I'm here to talk to you about Article 7, which is to fund the administrative and professional compensation plan. You should have received a memo and some salary schedules from me in the last week or so, and hopefully I'd just like to share a couple of quick slides to add some detail to that. So what is this article and what is the A&P plan? This group is not a recognized union. However, they do bargain their salary schedule collectively. This salary schedule covers all of our non-union workers that work more than 20 hours a week. This is folks like our department heads, supervisors, middle managers, professional and technical staff. This covers about just over 50 employees. This is a one-year agreement because this is not a collective bargaining agreement, so we're not allowed to come here with a multi-year agreement and asked the town meeting to approve it. So you're used to seeing me talk about this year after year. Typically, we're here and we're just rolling over a salary schedule that we've used for some time. And that has caused us to lose pace with the market over a little bit of time. So for a few years, we've been talking about trying to do a comprehensive compensation and classification review of the salaries for these folks and come up with a new salary structure. So we've finally been able to do that. See if I can switch by myself. So we've got a new salary structure that you got in your backup. So let me take a step back here for a minute. So about a year and a half ago, we hired a professional human resource consulting firm to come in and work with us on this comprehensive compensation and classification review. So what they did is they came in and they met with each of the folks that's covered by this comp plan and interviewed them on their job and the requirements and the skill set needed for each. to work on some internal equity, review those job descriptions. What they also did, more importantly, is they did a salary survey of a comparable communities. So we did some market benchmarking, and you can see the 14 communities that we used up there, the list. Some of them are contiguous to Burlington, like Lexington, Bedford, Wilmington, Billerica, Woburn, obviously, and others aren't. They're a little bit further away, but they're more demographically aligned with Burlington, whether it's by their tax base, their levy limit, the size, their budget, things like that. So we did this market analysis in this benchmarking, and we came up with a new salary grid. And the goal wasn't to try to get folks that were underpaid, as far as the market has said, to the top, to be in the top, the top paid out of that group. It was more, our target was to be around the 75th percentile, so that the 75% would be below us and 25% would be above us. And that's a big tool for us for not only recruiting, but retention of the folks that we already have working here. So what we came up with that was in your backup was a salary grid that included 11 grades and 9 steps in each grade. And the first 6 steps were for our assistant department heads, supervisors, middle managers, professional staff, and those grades were separated by about a 6% increase between the grades. The top 5 steps were going to be for department heads and some other professional staff, and the idea was to have those grades be about 9% difference between them. Cool. What we did then is we took each employee and we reviewed where their new salary grade was going to be, and we slotted them at a step that wouldn't be the highest. So if someone was a top step now, they didn't automatically go to the top step because some people would have received exorbitant raises. What we tried to do was aim for what a step would be for everybody. So the steps are usually about 4% a year if you're working your way through the steps. So that's where we tried to have people land on the new salary grid. It's important to point out that this is not an increase in the budget. The budget for this was already approved last May when we set up what's called the negotiated settlements line in our budget approval process. So the money has already been included for this. The budget in there is about $349,000. What we're asking for here is a transfer from that line into the other departments' lines to fund all the increases for all these positions, and that's about $309,000. So just a little bit about what you received in your backup. It should have been one document, a one-pager that was a memo that sort of said the same things that I just said that was on the slides. Another document was a snapshot of what the salary grid looks like for next year with the 11 grades and with the 9 steps. And then the third document was an attempt at a little bit of a crosswalk to show what grades each of the positions was graded at in the old system and what grade each of the positions will fall in the new system. And then also included on that sheet was what the salary survey data was for each of those positions, what the new salary range would be in their new grade. So finally, just on the behalf of the administration and the A&P group, I want to thank the Ways and Means, the Select Board, and this body. We were trying to come to the May town meeting. We didn't quite get done in time. Unfortunately, when you add some more time for something, it usually takes longer to get it done. So we were right up against this town meeting, and I appreciate the patience and the opportunity to speak on it. I'm happy to answer any questions.
Thank you. Excuse me, Mr. Denizio. I'd like to recognize now Mr. Wick to speak on behalf of the folks covered by the A&P plan.
Thank you, Mr. Moderator. Michael Wick. I'm the Burlington Public Library Director. I'm here on behalf of the members of the A&P plan. I wanted to thank John and Paul for their attention and their response through the process. The A&P group voted in favor of this. As John mentioned, what we've seen happening is the market kind of outpacing this A&P plan, as well as some of the other union plans starting to kind of outpace it as well. And so this rectifies a lot of those situations. And so I just wanted to take this opportunity to say thank you and appreciate your support, appreciate town meeting support on this, and we look forward to beginning negotiations for next year. Thanks.
Okay, we'll open this up for discussion. Mr. Boyven.
Thank you, Mr. Moderator. Bill Boyven, Precinct 1. Just a question about the structure of the grade step chart. The grades are based on the position you're in. The steps, are they seniority-based? You go from one to the other with strictly time and satisfactory performance? And what is the spacing between the steps? Is it universal, or I know in the federal government, the further out you got, the more time there was between steps?
Mr. Denizio.
Thank you, Mr. Moderator. Thank you, Mr. Boyven. So the spread between steps, the first two steps are a little bit higher of a increase between them, and the rest are all 4% uniform from step 3 to step 9. And I believe the other question was how long till you get a step, and when are folks placed based on how many years they were here. So typically in the old system, it was you came in, you were placed on a step based on your experience, and then you step each year. And what happens is people max out on the steps, and they no longer get a step. So that's what I was talking a little bit about. The folks that are on the highest step don't automatically go to the new highest step. Even folks, we have some folks over here that have been here 30 years that aren't going to be on the highest step now. So what we tried to do with this one, with their initial placement, was to place them at a step that was as close to their salary as last year, but basically would include one step, which is about 4%. Correct.
Further questions on this? Ms. Angelo.
Thank you. Pat Angelo, Precinct 5. Now, is that a 4% increase this year? And is it a 4% increase every year?
Mr. Denizio, please.
Thank you, Mr. Moderator. Ms. Angelo, that is if you're going through the steps, the increase between the steps is 4%, which is very similar to our union steps. But folks that get to the top step no longer moving through the steps. So basically what happens is when you're hired on, say you're a newbie, and you start on step 1, that position may pay $120,000, but you're starting out at the 90 range and you're working your way through the steps. So if you're a person going through the steps, it is like getting a 2 increases. You're getting an increase when we adjust the salary schedule, and you're also getting an increase when you move a step on your anniversary date.
So is that 4%, isn't that a higher increase than what the police, fire, and teachers get?
Mr. Denizio.
Thank you. Not for the steps. The spread between steps is very similar in all of our unions. It's about, all of our townside unions. It's between 3% and 4% from one step to the next.
For all of the unions?
All of the townside unions.
And it's 4%?
It's between 3% and 4%, yeah. Some of them are higher in some of the unions at the lower step, and some are higher at the higher step. But
okay, thank you.
That's about average.
Further questions? Seeing none. All those in favor? Thank you. Opposed? Motion carries. Before we move on to the next article, I need to make sure I thank a few people. Our high school volunteers. Hold on, Marina, I'll get to you. We can have our minute in a moment. Joanne Nizakoba, Chase Jackman, Lucas Marcosoli, and Juliana Magrain. Thank you for your help tonight, and our our sound engineer, Eric Kilburn. Thank you for being here tonight. And we need to have Myrna's... we need to have Myrna's moment, so we get a minute. 2 minutes, starting now, to stretch your legs. The gavel bangs in 120 seconds.